Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for being here. It's great to see this level of interest. And these two topics that actually there's a pretty clear nexus between the two. There is a saying out there that education policy is housing policy and housing policy is education policy. And when I think about housing, I actually think it's at the nexus of many other public policy issues that we deal with, whether it's health, whether it's access to economic opportunity, whether it's access to jobs, transportation, all of them, housing is at the nexus of that. And I have been really focused on this issue for a very long time, and I'm known for saying that we make painfully incremental progress, and that's good progress, as painful as it is. I think that I need to recognize that there is no silver bullet solution to this, and I think what you'll see over the course of this legislative session, as we've seen in years past, is trying to identify the 1,000 veto points that exist out there that make it really difficult to develop the housing in the numbers that we need it to be developed. And, is the number that's thrown out there about 100,000. That 100,000 unit number is really for people at the lowest end of the income spectrum. So I think it's important to keep that in mind. That's just folks who are extremely cost burdened, right? Who are really struggling to keep themselves housed. There's been a lot of attention paid to the increase in homelessness, right? That's at the end of the housing conversation. That's when we've really truly failed, right? When we begin to see people who are homeless, families with children who are homeless, elderly individuals who are homeless, that means we failed upstream at the larger conversation around housing, and it's really why we need to build more housing in Connecticut, not only to just meet the demand, but also to replace housing. A lot of our communities are older. East Hartford is one of those, where the vast majority of our housing in East Hartford is pre-1950. Those are smaller units. They are older units. They definitely have lead in them. You see that in Hartford. You see that in Bridgeport. You see New Haven. You see it in lots of our core urban areas, as well as our inner ring suburbs as well. So it's also about replacement housing. When people question whether we need it or not because our population is stable, no, it's also about meeting the needs of individuals who are really living in insecure and unsanitary and unsafe housing, where certainly adults can't live a good life, but certainly children aren't able to have a safe place to sleep at night, but also to learn and to do their homework and to do those kinds of things that we expect when those of us who are stable in our housing, the benefit that we have. So I am sure that there'll be a lot of housing bills have already been proposed. Some are proactive, some are reactive, and some are just plain out negative and actually attempt to move us backwards on this question. But we'll be looking at everything that's been debated in past years, whether it's transit-oriented development, looking at the next stage of fair share, looking at how we can look at some of the environmental regulations that are out there that keep us from being able to move forward. And at the end of the day, what we're striving to find is balance, right? We can't swing too far to the left or too far to the right on this issue. If we do that, we end up failing and we end up not making the kind of progress that we need to make. So I'm really committed to finding balance. I've been reaching out to my Republican colleagues. This is a Democratic press conference, but I'm certainly engaging my Republican colleagues in this conversation, because there is interest on that side. I'm trying to make movement on this, perhaps not at the level that I would like to make it, but there's progress to be made nonetheless. And I'm looking forward to what's going to get proposed over the next week when the bill deadline is Friday. And obviously we have a number of incredible leaders at the committee level who are going to be putting some proposals forward too. And my hope is at the end of this legislative session, we're making something more than just painfully incremental progress. Thank you.